Welcome to the NoPixAfterDark podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Dante. I am so excited to hear you today. Mixtape Volume 2 is back. We're bringing the summer heat because it's going to be a hot summer. They call it the Roaring 20s. We're back at it. Volume 2. We're going to have brand new contributors. Can't wait for you guys to listen to them. Coming with that heat. I'm so excited. Last season was amazing. This is going to be even better. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for everybody who told their friends. Thank you for everybody who voted with Best of Baltimore, Baltimore Magazine, Baltimore Sun. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And this season is going to be amazing. This episode is going to be Brooke Lierman, State Delegate. Oh yeah, we come with the heat. Right back, folks. Hey, folks. And, my main man, comedian Ivan Martin's back. What's up, Ivan? What you got for us this season?
Hey, beautiful people out there in beautiful Baltimore and Earthland. What is going on? Happy to be back. My name is comedian Ivan Martin, and I am back for another season as your resident comedian. I'll be hitting you left and right with fun anecdotes and some informational stuff that's going on in the city that you might want to know about, as well as laugh at the same time. This year, we got some cool things coming up. I got some nice information for you. We got the Baltimore Comedy Festival coming back 100% in person. Make some noise for that. And also, for the first time ever this year, the DC Comedy Festival will be running like right after the week. So the Baltimore Comedy Festival starts September the 1st, and it'll end September 6th. It is at various locations throughout Baltimore and Baltimore City. And the DC Comedy Festival will be starting September 13th. So please be sure to stay tuned and check out both websites, Baltimore Comedy Festival and DC Comedy Festival, as well as Google my name and Comedy Central. Watch some fun things with me telling jokes with Kevin Hart. Nothing special. You know what I'm saying? And also, you can catch me doing fun anecdotes on Comedy Central as well. You can check me out at Black Planet. No, I'm joking. You can catch me on Instagram, Facebook, comedian Ivan Martin. And if I keep on having fun with you all, I promise I'll stop acting a fool in the streets and establish a real TikTok.
Hey, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. We'll catch you guys later. Go ahead. Peace. Visit your neighborhood sanctuary and do wellness for a luxurious experience for everybody. Treat yourself and a loved one with a massage, facial, or an entire day of pampering with our deluxe spa day packages that include lunch from the restaurant next door, Fire and Rice. For more information on booking or purchasing gift cards, visit their website at indowellness.com or call at 443-438-4048. They look forward to welcoming you and your loved ones to their beautiful new space at Soha Union, located at 4801 Harvard Road, Suite 1. What's going on, folks? It's Aaron Dante again, and this new segment. Have you ever had a confession? A confession, folks. So I saw this thing on Instagram, and I was like, "Oh wow, Confessions Thursday. I like this." Now I reached out to the person who runs it. I'm like, "I want you on the show. You got some dope content." So without further ado, Miss Laurel, how are you doing today?
All right, Aaron, how are you doing?
Cool. I'm excited that you're going to be contributing to the new NoPixAfterDark podcast. Tell people a little bit about you and Confessions Thursday.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up mostly in Maryland. I grew up outside of Frederick in a little town called Myersville. Moved to Baltimore after college and fell in love with it. And then moved away to Seattle for about 5 years for grad school, and felt a call to come back for a lot of different reasons that maybe will come out over confessions over time or another conversation. But I'm so happy to be in Baltimore. I've been back since 2017 and have settled in right on the cusp of Able and Better Waverly, which is one of my favorite spots in the city. And I was walking my dog and passed by the Waverly Library and was like, "Oh, I've never been inside there except to vote. Like I've never gotten a book from this library." And there's a lot of reasons why, but I was just like, I feel I gotta tell somebody this. Like, will other people have minor confessions like this, where it's like, oh, like here's just a thing that I realized is true that like I don't necessarily need to tell anybody, but might be interesting. And there's great secret telling platforms like Post Secret, but that's usually very deep and vulnerable. And I was like, this is just something lighthearted that like maybe someone else has had something similar. So I asked if anybody else had any minor Thursday confessions, and I got a lot of people said things like, from pretty minor stuff to I've had also some like pretty vulnerable stuff as well. But it's great, and it's kind of fun. It gives me sort of something to look forward to on social media, which can often just be a black hole of the internet, and so I'm pumped to be doing this and share a little bit about myself with folks I know and also just know from the internet, and then also learn more about the folks that I'm connected with online.
Well, I appreciate you because it's a leap of faith. We spoke yesterday. She had never listened to the show, but she had a leap of faith of like saying, hey, I'm sure you got some good stuff here. And I appreciate her taking that leap of faith in me. And so thank you so much. And my confession today, I hate social media.
And yet this is how we connected.
So folks, where can people find you for Confessions Thursday? Besides, one here.
Sure. So I do have a private Instagram account, which I do on purpose so that I know that people who are following me are real and not creeps or bots or whatever. But my Instagram account is Rest on Your Laurel, but it's rest.yr.laurel. So, normally people advise you not to rest on your laurels, but I'm here if you need a little break.
Love it. I love it, folks. And we'll be right back after these messages. At Fishnet, every plate served starts with the freshest, high-quality fish, sourced from local waters whenever possible. You get fine dining excellence delivered in a cozy, unpretentious, fast casual setting. Delicious does not even begin to describe it. Everything I've tried is made from scratch and incredible. The best fish I've ever had. Check them out for lunch or dinner at Mount Vernon Marketplace. Get caught in the Fishnet. You'll be glad you did. Menu and details at eatfishnet.com. And folks, I'm very excited with a new contributor to the show this season. I met her through a family friend, and she's been bringing nothing but the heat. Her podcast is fire. Her book is fire. Folks, without further ado, it's Charmyra Fleming. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Aaron. How are you?
Hey, I'm blessed to have you as a contributor this year. This season, I really wanted you on, and I'm glad you made time to contribute to the show. So tell people a little bit know about who you are. You're part of Charmsy Collective Media, but tell them about you. It's about talking about yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. As Aaron said, my name is Charmyra E. Fleming, but you can call me I'm the host of the podcast, The Purple Charm Experience. And on that podcast, I share with you my journey as an author. I also share a motivational quote, my sip of the week. If you're into Prince, I talk a little bit about him too. So I would invite you to join me each Wednesday when I drop a new episode. I also have two books. They are romance novels. They're called The Violet Rose and Three's a Charm. So I'm looking forward to contributing to the show this season. And I hope that you all would check me out. If you want to know more about me, please visit my website, www.creativecabaret.com, where you can find out about me, my books, my merchandise, and more. So thank you, Aaron, for the opportunity.
Hey, I can't wait for you to bring the heat, the jewels and gems this season. So folks, be on the lookout. Check out her website, check out her book, check out her podcast every Wednesday, all right? And we'll be right back, folks. The NoPixAfterDark podcast is proudly partnered with RYMKS Bar and Grill, located at 819 East Pratt Street, just north of Harbor East. RYMKS is a sports bar offering a soul food menu. With over 20 TVs, pool tables, outdoor patio seating, and private rooms, RYMKS is set up to be your premier downtown destination to watch all your favorite sporting events. Open from 11 a.m. until 11 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. Friday and Saturday, and 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday. Check out RYMKS Bar and Grill on Instagram and Facebook under at RYMKS Baltimore for daily happy hour specials and weekly events. RYMKS Baltimore. And welcome back, folks. Again, I'm your host, Aaron Dante from NoPixAfterDark podcast. And again, we have a special guest again. And she was a contributor last season. and she just crushed it. And I was like, I need you back on the show. You bring back she dropped jewels and gems. I was like, I need you back on the show. I had to beg her. I was like, I know you're busy. I just need 1 minute or 2 minutes of your time in the whole 96, 170 hours a week there is. And she said, yes. So I'm thankful to have Miss Amber Wendland on. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Aaron. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back.
Oh man, I'm excited. It's a brand new season, and I'm happy you can hop on with us. So what things are you going to be bringing to us this season?
So I'm excited. I know I'll be doing kind of some short bursts of interesting stuff. And as you know, my background's in architecture and urban planning and design. So I love cities. And so I'm going to be sharing some cool things that are happening in Baltimore related to urban planning, and some stuff over on the east side, stuff on the west side, some small projects, talk about transportation. But I also hope to kind of bring in some other influences from cities across the world that are doing really cool things that Baltimore could also be doing. So I'm hopefully just kind of dumping some cool ideas and sharing things and getting things out there for people to start thinking and advocating for things.
I'm so excited, folks. She's going to be bringing jewels, gems, a fire. I'm so excited. Like I said, and then we didn't say one thing. She's Maryland top 100 women. We got to put that out there. We got to give people their props, as they would say, the young people say that, or they said that. I don't know what the young people say, but I say props.
Yeah, who knows what young people say?
I don't know what they say, but top 100 women in Baltimore, Maryland. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Aaron.
I'm so excited for her spot. Folks, we'll be right back after these messages. After Dark podcast is fueled by Zeke's Coffee. Have you tried their coffee yet? I'm telling you, there is something different about it. Maybe it's because they roast their beans in a fluid coffee roaster, which provides the most accurate roasting temperatures and made with love. You will just have to check it out for yourself and try their delicious food while you're at it. Open now for curbside service, carryout, and delivery, and they also do wholesale. Visit Zeke's Coffee at 4719 Harvard Road. Open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday, 8 to 5 p.m. Kitchen closes at 3 p.m. or visit Zeke'sCoffee.com and you too can be fueled by Zeke's. Welcome to the NoPixAfterDark After Dark podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Dante. Today we have a very, very special guest on the show. I'm so excited. I am so excited. Again, I was telling people earlier, I had to swim. I had to go through the harbor. I had to take a plane, but we got somebody coming to Northeast Baltimore. I call Northeast Baltimore Disney World. Okay? So I appreciate you coming out over here and hanging out. So without further ado.
My pleasure.
Everybody's like, who's on the show? Maryland State Delegate, Brooke Lierman. How are you?
I am great. I am thrilled to be here in Northeast Baltimore, where the streets are beautiful colors, just like in Disney World. And everyone's smiling on this beautiful, sunshiny spring day. So it's great to be here. I'm not that far from you down in Southeast. So, but always happy to be here. And thanks so much for having me on.
I always like to joke. I always like to joke of everybody when they come up this way. I'm like, you came to Northeast? We're not the sexy like Fells, Canton, Federal Hill, but I like you coming up here. I appreciate you taking time out today. Coming out here and hanging out with us.
It's always fun to come to Zeke's. Shout out for Zeke's.
Shout out to
Great
Zeke's.
Stuff.
Zeke's, thank you so much for having us here. This is going to be a great episode, folks. Yep. So let me give you an intro real quick. Brooke Lierman is elected state official for Maryland who has served the 46th District Maryland House of Delegates since 2015. She was elected in 2014. She's one out of three in the district that's covering that district, and her neighborhoods touch all the water neighborhoods and some more. They touch, Fells, Canton, Federal Hill, Locust Point, Greektown,
Cherry Hill,
Westport,
Brooklyn, Curtis Bay.
I'm not.
Patterson Park.
You
can't name them all. You get in trouble because I always miss one. So I just say all the neighborhoods that touch the water. Little Italy, downtown, the port. Yeah.
Can't forget about those.
Yep.
So again, thank you so much for coming up to Northeast Baltimore. So thank you so much for coming on the NoPixAfterDark podcast. This is really cool.
It's really my honor, my pleasure. Best of Baltimore podcast. Really delighted to have you. We were really excited to feature you. Right? We did a Black History Month where we featured a different small Black-owned business every day, and you and I were connected by a mutual friend who happens to live in Salisbury, right, small state, and was just delighted to be able to feature you you and to be able to be on here and support you. And you're just doing great, great work. So thank you.
I'm honored to have you here. I mean, your being here is amazing. Again, even being on this, like for Black History Month, thank you so much.
Of course.
To just giving to your audience what businesses are out here and things that we're doing, and I really appreciate that.
It's my honor.
So, okay, we're going to get into this. This is your show.
Here we go.
This is not my show. This is your show. You came. We're going to make this happen, okay? So, tell people a little bit about you. Let's start. I did my homework. I do my homework before I do this.
Okay.
But you're not from Maryland originally. That's what I've heard. I hear you're from
right next door.
I hear you're from the Go-Go City.
I am from the Go-Go City, the home of Ben's Chili Bowl.
There you go.
I like to remind my constituents or tell my folks I'm not from Baltimore, but I got here as fast as I could. And yes, no, I was born in D.C. And then we moved to Bethesda to Montgomery County when I was in middle school. And I went away to college and AmeriCorps and worked on campaigns, went to law school. So away for quite a while, and then found a way back home. And, it was very intentional. I really wanted to move to Baltimore. It just appealed to me a lot for a number of different reasons, and got a federal clerkship. And then after that, I've been working in a great law firm for the past 10 years, and now very proud to represent the city.
That's cool. I mean, I tell people all the time, I was born in Baltimore and I left at a young age. And then I ended up I lived in Dallas, Texas for a little bit, Ohio for a little bit, and then ended up in upstate New York. Right. And you went to Dartmouth in the very cold weather.
Very cold.
I think I can beat you in that, actually.
Yeah, it's
I went
cold
to Syracuse.
in Syracuse. Yeah.
The sun only came out in August and September.
Yeah.
And then you didn't see the sun again until May.
Yeah.
So I definitely get that. And then you were down in University of Texas, correct?
I went to UT for law school, spent 3 years in Austin, had a wonderful time, learned a ton, was able to work in the legislature, volunteered for a sexual assault clinic, and did the housing law clinic, criminal defense law clinic, just had a wonderful experience at UT Law School. Yeah.
Brisket or ribs?
Brisket.
Okay, all right.
Brisket.
I gotta go.
Although I have to admit, now I'm a vegetarian.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, I get it.
I don't know if I don't think I could be a vegetarian if I lived in Texas, but here it's easier.
It's a little bit easier. So that's really cool. So law school.
Yep.
Law. I mean, was that something that was always no, just law, just curious, like what about law that really appealed to you? I always say a Perry Mason.
Right.
I think of the law, like he always came at the end was like, I got you. And you're like,
right.
That's really cool. Was there anything that like led you to that path?
No, it's a great question. When I was younger, I liked to argue a lot, and now I have a 3-year-old daughter who likes to argue with me a lot, and I feel bad for what I put my parents through. But no, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I grew up. When I was growing up, there's no other lawyers in my family, and my mother's a nurse, and my dad had his degree in urban studies or urban planning, and has worked in politics and on the Hill and whatnot. But when I was at college, I worked with some friends to start a mentoring program. And we worked with kids who lived in a public housing development just a couple miles away from Dartmouth in the very rural and very poor Upper Valley of New Hampshire and Vermont. And we called the program Dream, because we wanted the kids to dream big, right? And to reimagine what their lives could be like. And I'll never forget this one time, or I guess it was our sophomore year, which was the first year we started the program. We fundraised and we took the kids down to Boston for a day. There's middle school kids, and we went to get on the escalator, for the T, what they call the subway. And a few of the kids were like, wait, we're not getting on that thing. What is that thing? They had never seen an escalator before, right? They were it's very isolating, this kind of rural poverty. And what I discovered, right, was that these kids, though, they were amazing, right? They were so resilient and they were so smart in their own way. And but they needed an advocate, right? They needed somebody to help be a mentor, to help show them a different way, to really believe in them. And I loved working with them. We then turned that program, my friends, into a nonprofit called the Dream Program. So it's going strong. There's a Dream Program at every college in Vermont and New Hampshire, and now there's ones in Boston and Philadelphia. So we got to get it down to Baltimore at some point. I love it. But I've really learned about the power that one person can make in another person's life, if that makes sense, and how to be an advocate. And after that, my journey, I started working on campaigns. So I worked for a man named Paul Wellstone in Minnesota, who was up for re-election in 2002. And he was all about grassroots organizing. He'd been outspent 8-1, but in the first race that he ran when he won, and just an amazing person who unfortunately died in a plane crash a week before the election, but, voted against the Iraq War, voted against welfare reform, just really stood up for what he believed in. And he always said, he had this saying that I still carry with me today: we all do better when we all do better, right? Which I remind my constituents, Federal Hill will never be all it can be until Cherry Hill meets its full potential. All of our communities are connected. So I guess long story short is I loved advocating for these kids, and I loved advocating, working on campaigns, as I worked on Howard Dean's campaign and Carrie Edwards. But what I found was that I really wanted to work with people, and the further you got up in politics and campaigns, you didn't talk to voters anymore. You talk to consultants, and nothing against consultants, but I wanted to talk to people and help them solve problems. And to me, law school was a way to do that, to have a tool that could help somebody else and really be a way to help fight for the underdog. And that's, I will say, I feel incredibly blessed and really fortunate to have landed at the law firm that I landed at in Baltimore. I'm at Brown, Goldstein, and Levy, and it's, a law firm downtown. And I've had the honor of representing, do you remember the ESPN zone?
Yeah.
So when that closed, I was one of the lawyers representing the United Workers and the workers there who Walt Disney Company violated the WARN Act and didn't give them enough notice, and we won them benefits. I represent other low-wage workers all over the state, wrongfully convicted gentleman who served 21 years for a crime he didn't commit, got him damages. We've done housing discrimination cases, and I represent a number of people around the country with disabilities, particularly blind people and who are deaf or hard of hearing. So I love it. It's amazing work, and I've loved being able to represent these people, and I have learned so much from them, right, over the years. So it's been amazing. That was a really long story about how I became a lawyer. But
Pipe Wrench is a new online magazine. You'll find links to conversation pieces, playlists, essays, poems, and more by folks from all walks of life responding to the ideas in the main feature. Each issue is like a dinner party, full of thoughtful, fascinating people inspiring each other to build on each other's work, references, and ideas. You can read more from Pipe Wrench and subscribe online at www.pipewrenchmag.com. So I always tell people it's all about storytelling and how you can tell a story and get people. And I'm literally, on every word you're saying, I'm jumping wow. I'm listening to it because you said a couple things that are really highlighted that I wanted to tell you about. You talked about the one guy who passed away. Yep. And he said, all of us together.
We all do better when we all do better.
I tell that all the time with my podcast. I have a group called Charmyra Collective Media.
Oh.
And it's 7 different podcasters. And I said, let's get together. We're better as one.
Yep.
Than individual.
Yeah, you buttress each other.
Right, and we can help each other. We can bounce ideas of each other. We can learn from each other, and that's what it's all about to me.
Yeah,
it's learning
I agree.
And doing. And I love that you're working with the people that don't have a voice sometimes. The voice unheard, the workers who needed help when Disney just left.
Right.
That's huge.
Right.
And that's fighting for the people, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I will say, what's often fascinating is that it's not that they don't have a voice. They have a voice. It's that nobody's listening to it, right? I've done a lot. I did a lot of, before I ran for office, I worked with the Community Law Center a lot. I did pro bono cases representing community associations all over the city in liquor board cases. And I will say the liquor board 10 years ago looked very different than the liquor board today. And it was not community friendly. And, I represented these communities they had a voice, right? They were trying to make their neighborhoods safer and better, and they just kept getting turned down by the liquor board. And it was really frustrating to me because government wasn't listening to their voice. And ultimately that's part of the reason that I ran was I felt like I want you to have somebody who listens to you and will, act on that.
And that's what we're about to get into right now.
Yeah, there we go.
That was a great lead in.
Thanks.
So what made you want to run? Because I always ask politicians this. I'm like, your whole life is open at this point. You are an open book. How do you feel about is that something when you told your family, friends, I'm running for office? Walk us through that.
Sure. It's interesting. I think for a lot of women who run for office, we need to be asked or told that this is something that we could aspire to. And I will say I had a number of mentors and supervisors over the years who said to me, someday if the opportunity ever presents itself, you should consider this. And I was like, whatever. And But I loved being involved. But I will say what ultimately made me run was I had just encounter after encounter with state government. That was not the kind of government that I was brought up to believe in, right? Like I am a big believer that government should be dismantling barriers, eliminating barriers and creating opportunity so people can reach their full potential. And my experience when I got to Baltimore was in some ways the opposite. So my first day of work on my clerkship, I had done the research, planned to take the number 10 bus down Eastern Avenue to get to the courthouse, right? And I went to stand on Eastern Ave, not far from Wolf Street, which was where our house was, and the bus just didn't come. And I didn't know what to do. So eventually, I got a ride from my husband, and eventually, I realized I couldn't rely on MTA to get me there on time, and so I started walking. I was really frustrated at all the empty tree pits, and started 311ing them all the time. I was wrecking Park's bane of their existence. And then I started looking at schools. My husband and I were looking at schools, and what I learned, I looked at, the water fountains. Like if you just go into an old school in Baltimore and you look at the water fountain, like chances are you will see a sign that says, don't drink the water, right? Because there's lead in the pipes. And I had gone to this beautiful new school in Montgomery County, and it had never, I had no idea that this disparity existed until I was here and looking at schools. And I will say my son now goes to Hampstead Hill, which is our zoned public school, in Southeast Baltimore, and we love it and we're thrilled for it. But I just couldn't sort of believe this. And then doing these cases in front of the liquor board, that's what really because, the liquor board members and the law was all state law. And I just felt like everywhere I looked, I was being confronted by problems that were the creation of state government rather than the state government actually solving them, right? Like MTA, state agency, tree pits, empty. We were not getting nearly our fair share of program open space dollars. Schools, totally underfunded schools. Liquor board, appointed by the governor, and all state law. And so ultimately, I decided to sort of throw my hat in and run because I felt like there needed to be somebody or somebody else who was really focused on these community level issues and being a voice for the community at the state level.
So were you grassroots? How you started everything off, far as when you ran?
Yeah, I mean, I knocked on 14,000 doors. My volunteers knocked on another 20,000. Held dozens of coffees and house parties. Sometimes they'd be 5 people, sometimes they'd be 20. And you never knew when you'd show up. But people were awesome, and really gave their time and dedication, and and we won. It was really exciting, and I'll never forget one of the last doors that I knocked. It was in the Riverside neighborhood. This woman said to me, "If you work half as hard as my state delegate as you have running to be my state delegate, you will be the best state delegate I've ever had." And I was like, "I promise you, I will do that."
I love that. I love that story. I love that. So when you got in, when you won, how did it feel? You are like a state delegate for Maryland, the 40, a huge district. Your district's huge.
Yeah, it's really big.
So how and
how really diverse.
Yes, it's very diverse. When you won, take us back to that.
Yeah, so I remember
you saw your name flash on this TV screen.
Yeah, well, I actually remember I was sitting at I spent election day up at William Paca, which is one of my favorite places to stay because it's a huge polling place and a really diverse polling place. So you just see people from all walks of life coming in, and it's just awesome. It's really fun. And then I went back to where our team was meeting to see election results come in, and I was sitting at on a bench at a picnic table, and I got a call from somebody who was at a Cherry Hill poll telling me that I had won in Cherry Hill, and I was like, I don't understand. And they're like, no. I was like, you mean today or early vote? And he was like, no, you won everything in Cherry Hill. And Cherry Hill was so important to me, and I'd spent so much time there. I just put my phone down and started crying.
That's beautiful.
I remember it really well. But honestly, after that, then I felt like, oh shit.
Right. It's real.
There's no
real.
instruction manual,
It's real.
But I try to be a delegate like I campaigned. I am totally accessible to my constituents. I will have a meeting with anybody who wants to meet with me, or a phone call with anybody who wants to talk with me. I try to be present as much as I can, despite the fact that the district is huge. This past year during the pandemic, that meant, even before session had ended, because we had a shortened session last year when the pandemic started. I was, still in Annapolis, and I got a call from somebody in Brooklyn saying, hey, they just put up where all the food is, and there's not food at a site in Brooklyn. Like, what's going on? I'm calling the city, figuring out how to get more food availability in Brooklyn, while we're still voting on the budget and passing things. But they know to call me, right? And that means something to me, right? I'm happy that they know that I'm going to go to bat for them, and that I've got my community's backs. So I love it. It's been a thrill. And really, it sounds cheesy, but it's an honor. I love I love that. It's amazing that people have put their trust in me and want me to be their representative. It's these past 7 years have been both more challenging and more rewarding than I could ever have imagined.
So going back a little bit, your freshman year.
Yep.
In session.
Yes.
What committees were you on, and what were some of the things that you passed when your first session that you were like, this is real. This is real. To walk us through a little bit about
Sure.
that.
So I was assigned to the Appropriations Committee, which is great. It's where I wanted to be because I strongly believe that our budget is a values document, and that where you put your money is where you put your priorities. So I was happy to be on the Appropriations Committee. It's also the committee where we do a lot of government oversight. So we oversee the agencies, and of course we had a Republican governor then for the first time in 8 years. And so, we were doing a lot to see what was going on, who he was appointing, what policies they were putting in place. I don't want to totally misstate this, but I think at some point, and I heard from somebody who was an O'Malley, sort of left over from the O'Malley administration, pinging me and saying, they're taking climate change off of all the websites. It was pretty surreal. But good to be in the Appropriations Committee to sort of look at and understand why we're being so underfunded in our schools, how underfunded our parks were, just understanding better the levels of disparity and inequity for Baltimore. And I passed one bill that session,
okay.
And it was brought to me by a constituent. Actually, he called me and he said, hey, I applied for family medical leave. I asked I went to my company. I said, my dad has Parkinson's. I want to be able to take care of him. And I'd like to use my family medical leave, the state leave, not federal. And they said, sure, just put it in writing and request it. And then when he did that, they fired him. Yeah. So
wow.
You would think that retaliation was not allowed under state law. And in fact, it said in state law, you cannot be retaliated against for using your state leave. But there was this loophole. He litigated it, and the court held, look, there's a loophole because it doesn't say you can't be fired for requesting to use your leave. Crazy loophole, right?
Wow.
So I didn't know how to pass a bill, but I put this bill in because I just thought, come on, this is ridiculous. This is clearly not what the General Assembly intended. And it passed. I was really excited. So it passed through the Economic Matters and passed it out of the Senate. So that was the first bill I put in and the first bill I passed.
Wow. Folks, we'll be right back after these messages. The NoPix After Dark podcast is proudly sponsored by Maggie's Farm. Located at 4341 Hartford Road, Maggie's Farm offers a unique dining experience with delicious handcrafted cocktails and mouth-watering cuisine, from falafel to scallops and everyone's favorite honey sriracha cauliflower wings. Open for dinner from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday, and serving brunch Saturday 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. with delectable chicken and waffles, shrimp and grits, biscuits and gravy, and more. Check out Maggie's Farm on Instagram and Facebook for daily and weekly food specials as well. And we're back, folks. And again, I am delighted and honored to have the Maryland State Delegate, Miss Brooke Lierman. And it's awesome to have her here from the 46th District. Again, she took an Uber up Charles Street and then took an Uber across Northeast. But I'm joking around, but again, I'm glad that you came up and just get a good introduction of who you are. And if you guys missed the first part, you better go rewind, because she's throwing some jewels and gems. She's throwing a lot of fire out there. So again, thank you so much for coming on the NoPixAfterDark show, and thank you Zeke's Coffee for having us here live. And really appreciate Zeke's having us here. So let's talk about some legislation. Let's talk about that.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about some things you've done. It's your show. Like I said, it's always your show. I give you the mic. What legislation? What's going on? Tell me things that you've worked on, things that you're really happy about this past.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, a few different things I'm happy to talk about. First, I'll gun violence, right?
Yeah.
It's been, really plaguing our city for decades. And, one of the things that I was really interested in doing after the uprising was really understanding more about what worked and what didn't. And I represent Cherry Hill, and we'd seen in Cherry Hill sort of no violence after the uprising, and for the year before that, not a single homicide. And, if you know what Cherry Hill was like decades ago, it was very different, right? And we credit that to a lot of the work of the Cherry Hill CDC, of course, in Mike Middleton, but also to the Safe Streets program, which is phenomenal. So I really started researching evidence-based, public health-oriented gun violence prevention programs. That's ROCA, ceasefire, safe streets, hospital-based intervention programs, and looked at the research. And what we've seen from around the country is that those programs work. When implemented appropriately, they work. And so I worked with advocates around the city and the state and Senator Carter and others to create the state's first gun violence prevention fund and program. And it's called Maryland VIP, Maryland Violence Intervention and Prevention Program. So the Maryland VIP program. And we are one of now only 6 states in the country that have this program at the state level to fund local efforts to prevent gun violence. Unfortunately, it hasn't been funded appropriately. Story of my life. But we did just pass legislation. Senator Carter and I worked on to override the governor's veto to guarantee $3 million a year from the state for that programming now, and to bump up. And of course, Delegate Branch had sponsored, funding for Safe Streets, and so we now do have some more money. And President Biden just announced, huge announcement, that there's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars for these evidence-based gun violence prevention programs. So really excited about sort of the gun violence prevention work, because it just needs to happen. But even before you get to that point, right, let's talk about how you get people to be upwardly mobile. We know that the single strongest factor in the odds of escaping poverty is commute time,
right?
Which is great. Like, it's just not what you would think of. And of course, we know that the longest commute times in the city are from places like Sandtown, Winchester, right? So part of that is that our transit system is just totally subpar, and it has been starved for years. And I have, I was a champion of the Red Line. I was on the, citywide Red Line committee, and that was a devastating blow to lose that. But since then, I've been working with advocates, and now Mayor Scott and Senator Cory McCray, and Senator McCray and I worked this year with Mayor Scott to pass the Transit Safety and Investment Act, which is guaranteed capital funding for MTA. So over the next few years, they'll be able to replace their buses. In fact, they're going to start replacing their buses with electric vehicles. So we'll have less pollution in our city streets, right? They're going to be able to have the funding that they need so that our buses and our subway and our light rail doesn't break down every day, right? Basic stuff that we should be doing better. Like, it doesn't have to be like this. So transit, I've been, that's a big passion of mine. This year, I worked over the past year in the pandemic on broadband issues, right? I was just in Brooklyn last week, celebrating that some cell towers going up to help, or not cell towers, but Wi-Fi towers going up to do free Wi-Fi. But broadband's a huge issue, and we were one of the few states in the country not to have a state office tackling the challenge of ensuring that every person in the state has access to affordable, high-speed internet and a device, right? So I'm really excited. We passed a bill this year to create the Office of Statewide Broadband, and we funded it thanks to leadership with $300 million. Wow. Huge. And amazingly, Mayor Scott, who's been a real leader on this, just appointed a digital equity, director, Jason Hardebeck, who's fantastic and helped with this bill. We passed the bill in this session. The governor signed it the next day, and it was an emergency bill, so it went into effect as soon as he signed it. We now have an Office of Statewide Broadband that is working with local leaders, our education systems, our libraries, to get people connected. Finally, I'll just mention community development. So, I sometimes wish that rather than going to law school, I'm glad I went to law school, but I also wish I would have gone to school for like urban studies or community development, because so much of what I'm interested in is really about how do you do inclusive, equitable community development in a way that doesn't displace families, but offers them opportunities for home ownership, right? So many of the programs that we have are about creating rental housing, which is fine, but as we saw during the pandemic, we're in this rental eviction crisis, right? And how you build wealth in America is through owning your own business or owning a house, right?
Correct.
And part of the racial wealth divide that we see in the state and in this country is because there's lower rates of business ownership and home ownership among Black Marylanders. And that's a huge challenge for everybody in the state. Everybody should care about that and want to solve that problem. So I've been really interested in how we solve some of those issues and do the community development work. And over my time, I've done a lot on I passed budget language to require DHCD to create an affordable housing needs assessment so that there is a plan for creating more affordable housing around the state. And this past year, Senator Antonio Hayes. So I should say, when I got elected, Antonio Hayes and Corey and I all entered together. Okay. It was a little triumvirate, and I was very grateful to them for their guidance. And but then they left me. They abandoned me for the Senate. They left me in the House. But they're still great friends, and I sponsored bills with each of them this year. And so Senator Hayes and I passed a bill to create a funding program to stem to the appraisal gap. So often what happens is you'll have like a nonprofit developer want to come in, like Bree Jones at Parity Homes or Sean McCloskey at Rebuild Metro, who they want to redevelop, in a way that they can keep prices affordable for the people who live there to own a house. But it costs more to rehab a house or to renovate an old house, like one of these beautiful old, homes in East or West Baltimore and Brooklyn, than they can sell it for. So they can't make the numbers work.
Right.
And even if you're a nonprofit developer, at some point you have to be able to make the numbers work, right? So we passed a bill to create a state fund and program totally dedicated to filling that appraisal gap to help make this development work. The second part of that bill was to do a disparity study. We know that we all know there are huge racial disparities in the real estate industry. It exists. The Fair Housing Act passed in 1968, it may have outlawed, some forms of de jure discrimination, but de facto discrimination has continued for decades. And so we passed this bill also under the leadership of the Speaker, calls for a disparity study to be done on racial discrimination in real estate. When we do that disparity study and we demonstrate that this racial discrimination continues to exist, then we'll be able to pass bills that target that discrimination. So those are some of the things that I've been working on, really excited about them. And I love trying to bring bills that solve big problems and will really start moving the needle. And I think some of these efforts, working with other people and nonprofit and advocacy partners and small business owners around the state, do that.
Well, thank you so much, because I know a lot of people are like, what do they do up there? I voted this person in, but I don't really know what they do.
Right.
What laws are passing, and I love what you're talking about, disparities and just getting housing and fair housing. I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah, it does.
It happens all the time.
It does.
You can get the same house it's funny. It's the same house that somewhere else costs way more.
Right.
Than somewhere else. Then same house, same area, square foot, but it's the area where you're located. So that's really important. I like hearing about that. And then there's one more thing before we go into another subject that came up that was really big. That was national news that Maryland did first. And that was about police reform.
Oh, police reform.
Of course. I had friends call me from California, Florida. I'm like, dude.
We're on The View.
Oh, okay.
Whoopi mentioned it on The View.
So there you go. So tell us a little bit about that.
That was an incredibly important effort, and really led by our speaker Adrian Jones, Senator Jill Carter, who's been a champion on these issues for years, Senator Ferguson, Delegate, my good friend, Delegate Vanessa Atterbury from Howard County, led the work group over the interim Delegate, or Senator Will Smith, who chairs JPR. Just many hands doing really important work on police reform. We passed a number of bills this year. So first and foremost, we repealed LEOBR, right? The Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. We repealed LEOBR and we replaced it with an accountability system that really centers citizen-led accountability system. And so, I encourage folks to go check it out. HB 670, really important initiative. We also passed bills like Anton's Law, and Senator Sidnor had a bill, and others that make sure that police can't hide. When they do something that's wrong, that their records are subject to the Public Information Act. And I really believe in transparency. And when you're a police officer, you have a higher duty, right? It is a higher duty. You are given police power that is really, not other public officials don't have that, and so you have to be held accountable for your actions. So we passed that. Also, no-knock warrants. warrants, made sure that we eliminated all no-knock warrants except for a very small subset of them, body-worn cameras. Now every police district or every police I'm losing the word. Every police station in the state will have to have body-worn cameras in a few years. So we passed a number of important initiatives, and I think, like you said, I think really led the nation in some of this work.
Where would police officers or districts or counties say they have no money? Is there money that's coming from the state or federal level that's giving money to use cameras? Are they helping them out a little bit?
That is a good question. That was part of the debate, is that some of these small counties are like, well, look, I think what matters, though, is, I think the state and, maybe the federal government will help in some circumstances. But if something's a priority, you figure out how to fund it.
Right.
And I think it has to be a priority that police everywhere wear body-worn cameras for everybody's protection.
Correct.
And I really think that this police reform bill will save lives. These police reform bills will help save lives and will help ultimately improve relationships between communities and the police.
And one more legislation question.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on this bill, and I've had conversations with a lot of people about this. And this is what why is it Maryland? This is crazy. So Maryland, so you have New York State. You have New Jersey.
Are we talking about marijuana?
You know where I was going with that. See, I knew you knew where I was going with this. We're
Virginia.
Virginia. Everybody says Maryland's a progressive state. Everybody tells me that. And I'm looking at New York, New Jersey, Virginia. Yeah. And we're stuck in limbo. And it wasn't even brought up in session, which I kind of
No, it was.
Was it? Okay.
So Delegate Lewis.
Help us out with that, because there's so many. I have some things about that, because I see business owners who don't look like me, who sell marijuana,
who are doing very well,
lucrative businesses.
Right.
Okay, I know what they're doing.
And,
right, I get that.
I get it.
A lot of people are in jail for that.
Yep.
Okay,
100%.
We can go down the rabbit hole, but we're not going to go there. But what I'm saying is, why isn't that something that is not on the forefront? I guess I'm curious about that.
I don't know that it's on the forefront, not on the forefront. I think I will tell you, I got more emails about decriminalization and regulation of marijuana than many, many, many other topics. It is something that people want, and I want it. I've been co-sponsoring bills that for legalization of marijuana since my first session. So Delegate Jazz Lewis, Senator Feldman, they brought legislation this year that was really comprehensive. I think, we all want to do it right when we do it. We don't want to do it how some of the earlier states did it, where, people who had low-level drug crimes stayed in jail, and, the Black community weren't able to sort of reap some of the rewards after being penalized for decades. So I think, we want to make sure we do it right. Delegate Lewis had a great bill that made sure that there were investments in the right communities, that looked at how you were giving out licenses in a way to incentivize, small business development, not having like a McDonald's of marijuana come in and and take up everything, right? So there's a way to do it right. I am exceedingly hopeful that we do this next year.
Yeah. Only reason why I bring this up, because I was in California recently, and I'm like, this is like, I walk in the dispensary, I'm like,
no, I'm with you.
What is going on? Like, why can't Maryland, which is a place, that's something we'll talk next episode about.
No, and I will tell you, I do little Facebook Lives every once in a while, briefings with Brooke, and on April 20th, on 4/20, I had Delegate Lewis on to talk about
I love it.
Marijuana, and so it was on Facebook Live, but we have to do it. Absolutely, I'm 100% there.
Okay, so that we'll get right from that. So, World Kitchen.
Oh, World Central Kitchen.
World Central Kitchen. They were here.
It was really exciting.
So how did it all happen?
Sure. Yeah. That was really exciting. That was after when the pandemic started, the General Assembly ended early for the first time since the Civil War, and I came back to Baltimore and immediately had 1,000 things to do. People were hurting, right? And I needed to be in and working with my communities. And, there was unemployment. Everybody needed their unemployment, and our system was completely broken, and that was a mess. But then there was also food. People needed food, like, immediately. And, the mayor's office was doing, and Tisha were doing yeoman's work, like, really trying to stand up food sites. Our school system, Dr. Sanalisis, like, they turned on a dime, right, to get schools open again, to be food service sites so that people could go pick up meals. But we needed more, right? And I think, so so I happened to see that World Central Kitchen was serving meals at National Stadium. And I was like, come here.
Right.
Like, you should be in Baltimore. So I sent an email, to World Central Kitchen, and they called me, and I walked them through sort of everything I knew about what what the city was doing, what city schools was doing, like where I thought the need was, and what was happening around the city. They asked me to introduce them to the City Hall, which I did, and to Dr. Santelises and the food team. They came up, they toured a school, they understood how it worked, and then they committed, and they brought, they adopted 12 schools where they served 20,000 meals every week for free, totally free to city schools, free to the city. And then we instituted the food drive, or the food giveaway, at Camden Yards. So every Saturday they would give out 75,000 meals at Camden Yards. So people would come in, we'd give them a bag of food, they drive through. It was really amazing, and I feel like it was like Chef Jose Andre is just a transformative power in the food industry. The other neat thing they did, with lots of people don't know about, they connected with me, of course, and then with Kwame Rose, because Nate, the CEO, knew him from being here before, and we connected them to several restaurants around the city, just small, independently owned restaurants, and they then paid the restaurants to make meals that then the restaurants gave out for free to community groups. So they would give them to Casa de Maryland, or different CDCs in Brooklyn or East Baltimore or West Baltimore, to give out. And what that did was sustain the food system, because when the restaurant was paid this living wage for the food, they kept paying the suppliers, who could pay their staff and pay the farms, and they paid the restaurant workers, right, who could then keep eating and support their families, and then also food got out. So it was a really innovative and important model for, I think, how to think through doing food sustainability, sustaining our food systems writ large in the future. But that was really exciting. Yeah.
Wow. I love hearing that. What did you learn about yourself and the job you did during the pandemic? Like, what did you learn? It was a learning curve for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What was the biggest concern constituents would call you up about? Was it food, mostly about food, or was it like unemployment? Was it
Rent,
about
unemployment?
Rent, what did you learn about this whole experience that we have gone through for a year now?
Right. It was easy to get frustrated when I couldn't do more. I guess, the unemployment system was so broken. It was really, really difficult. And, to me, it seemed so obvious how to do this. And yet our state had been our state agencies have been so cut to the bone and underinvested in, they just couldn't keep up. There was no resilience, because this administration has just whittled them away, and so I would be so frustrated about that. Or, I'd see and want to do something on housing, or support our immigrant communities were decimated because they weren't getting any of the federal benefits, right? So that was really hard. I don't know. I learned that I need to be doing things all the time, but that sometimes I also need to step back too and listen and really be present for my family too. I was overworking sometimes too, I would say, because I just felt like it was such a desperate situation. At one point I finally was like, I need to just go for a walk every morning. And so I got up early, way too early, because I have a 3-year-old and 8-year-old who get up very early. So I'd get up before them, and I would go walk to Patterson Park and walk back, just to try to find some peace in the morning.
Right.
But and I helped organize a bunch of community schools. So they were all sharing information. I worked with Cherry Hill and Elevate, and but it was a lot. I think everybody felt really tested, and it was it's been a really, really challenging year for almost everybody I know. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I have a 2-year-old and I have a 7-month-old.
Oh my God.
And let me tell you.
You were in the thick of it. You're not getting much sleep.
No sleep. I mean, I would get up in the morning
Girls
time.
or boys?
2 boys.
2 boys.
And I would literally get up in the morning time and ride my bike around Lake Montebello.
Oh, nice.
And
That's
just
fun.
clear my head before work. And it was just weird having work and home merged together.
Yes. Oh,
and it was just a lot going mentally, because you just couldn't separate the two.
Oh, I agree.
And
it's unhealthy.
It is.
It's not good for us.
Nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, we know it's tough. And luckily, I've gotten through it, but it was tough. I couldn't, like anybody else, couldn't see my parents.
Right.
Couldn't see my, loved ones. And
no, my mom was in an assisted living facility, and it was just so hard. She has Parkinson's, and I couldn't see her for so long, and it just felt so unfair. I don't know.
It was definitely a different time we lived in.
It's really tough.
So let's,
anyway,
we're gonna go on. So something really cool happened. So it was 2020 at the end, correct? Towards the end.
Yep.
You had a big announcement. And I remember hearing this on the news, and I was like, And I was like, okay, Peter Franchot was going to run for governor, and somebody's running for controller.
Yeah.
So, again, to my audience who are just listening, what was that big announcement? This is your thing.
Yeah, so I announced in late December that I was going to, run for comptroller. And Peter Franchot is moving on, and I think we have this really unique opportunity in 2022 to really reimagine what the resources of the Office of the Comptroller, the State Comptroller, can do for the people of Maryland to really help build more financially resilient families, small businesses, communities. The Comptroller's office is the place where we can really tackle the racial wealth divide, where we can focus on income-based issues. And, I saw this saying once that I love, the pandemic really taught us, I think, that we are all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. And, people came into this pandemic with, boats that were full of holes and leaking, and, then other people came in with ocean liners, right? And so I think that we have a lot of work to do in a post-pandemic Maryland to make sure that we're focusing on pocketbook issues, that the comptroller's leading the way and working with nonprofits and advocates and the assembly and partners to really ensure that moving forward, we are building more financial resilience in this state and that no one is left behind.
Wow. Because a lot of people don't know what controllers do. They really don't know.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And like I said, and you announced very early.
Yep.
And again, I saw some other people from Montgomery County, Prince George's County that are putting their own hat in the ring. And again, another journey, another test.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
I'm super excited. Yeah, I'm really excited. I've been doing all these virtual meet and greets, and somebody the other day said, I love Brooke for all these reasons, but mostly I've never seen anybody as excited about what the state comptroller does. And I am. I think it's just this really extraordinary position.
Right.
And we have this amazing opportunity in 2022 to really be bold about what that office can do and what it can do for everyday working people, what it can do to uplift communities, what it can do to help small businesses, Black-owned businesses really thrive and grow following such a devastating time. So I'm really excited. Tomorrow I'm driving to Salisbury. I am, getting around the state to meet people. I'm excited to have the support of many of my colleagues in the General Assembly, including Senator McCray and Senator Hayes, my friends. And just excited to be all around the state and get the opportunity to work with people everywhere, not just in District 46.
Folks, we just gave you a little teaser because there's going to be a part 2 of this. We're going to really get into that. We're really going to get into what it's all about, and we're going to ask those hard-hitting questions later on. But this again, so this is the favorite part of my show. I love you on. I know you were sweating through the episode. I call it rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Here we go.
Okay. What inspires you every day?
The people I represent. The people I represent and what they go through and how they put one foot in front of the other. And not only that they dig in, some of them work in 2 jobs and they still find time to lead their community associations or, in Cherry Hill, there's this one woman who's always running activities for kids, even though, she has a lot to deal with. She's always like, Brooke, we got to do an Easter egg. Brooke, we got to do a Halloween thing. Brooke, we got to, absolutely. I'm there. I support you. So the people that I represent are totally inspiring to me.
Your favorite author?
My favorite author. Who is my favorite author? So I would say my favorite book that I've read in the past few years is The Warmth of Other Suns.
Okay.
And I just got cast, so I'm excited to read that. But I will say my favorite author when I was a kid
Okay. We can go there.
I'm trying to think of who my favorite author is now. My favorite author when I was a kid was a woman named Ellen Raskin, who wrote a book called The Westing Game.
Okay.
And it was this crazy little mystery, and I read it over and over and over again, and I can't wait to read it till my kids are bigger so I can read it to them.
See, mine was C.S. Lewis. I liked Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe. That was my fantasy world.
That is really good.
That was my world.
Yeah.
And then when the movie came out, I was like, I'll stick to the book.
Yep.
Your favorite musician?
My favorite musician, gosh, I go back and forth. So I always love The Boss.
Okay.
But I'm a big, I love a huge variety of music. Everything from, I can always listen to some Rhythm Nation 1814, which has stayed with me since middle school.
I got you.
But I also, one of my theme songs is Whitney Houston.
Okay.
Love Dolly Parton. Okay. When I was in Austin, listened to a ton of indie, so.
There we go. I like that. Okay. Crabs or crab cakes?
Crabs. Done.
Okay. Flats or drums? This is always the mystery question. This is always the hard-hitting one right here.
I'd say flats.
All right. Blue cheese or ranch?
Ooh, ranch.
Oh, see, we got in there. See, you know what?
Sorry.
See, that's that. See, up north, we do blue cheese.
I can't do blue cheese. Yeah.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
Is the best I ever. Never separate the life you lead from the words you speak.
Gotcha.
That was Senator Wellstone used to say that, and I think it's not something that is easily done.
Okay.
Right, but it's something to aspire to, sort of to be consistent.
Nice. And where can we find you? Your contact info? Are
Sure.
you on TikTok? Like all the cool kids are doing.
So I am not yet. So I actually say I am on TikTok, but I don't post anything.
Okay.
I just watch what my nephews post and cool food, recipes, and but I am on everything else. Instagram, Twitter, Brooke E. Lierman, Brooke Lierman for Maryland on Facebook, and my website is just brookelierman.com.
It's been an honor and pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine.
I appreciate you
Thank
coming
you.
in. We will do this part 2, folks. We'll definitely have part 2.
Awesome.
And we'll have a roundtable discussion.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Thank you, folks. Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care.